So with the introduction of the newest Souls game, Elden Ring, I've been wondering what they're going to do with the franchise from here, thinking about what's going to change and what'll stay the same. I've also been thinking a lot about how I design a Soulsborne game because of the ones I've played. I feel like they can be inaccessible and not too fun at times. So let's see what I can do to remedy that and still have a game that feels like a Soulsborne game without sacrificing too much of the original identity. This will be a series of videos that sort of takes from similar videos like ones made by the Duke of Dorks or Toxiquid, but with all my own stuff and all my own ideas. Each episode will cover a different aspect of the game, and we'll start in this episode with the story and world of the game. Just a disclaimer though, this isn't a prediction for Elden Ring. I'm just creating a theoretical Soulsborne game that everyone can enjoy if at all possible. As always, we start with a character creator, though it will be greatly expanded upon with more races, genders, weapons that you can choose, etc. The races offered are human, elf, dwarf, gnome, and orc. The stats I've chosen are roughly brought from the RPG Pathfinder, but slightly tweaked, replacing wisdom with magic because it sounds better and is simpler. This is to help simplify the stats system to make it easier to understand. Strength affects only your damage output and nothing else, dexterity affects your stamina, vitality affects your health, and magic affects how large your magic meter is. That is the only difference between races, aside from cosmetic changes being the starting stats. This story takes place in the world of Zadroth, a world that is at war. There are 42 different states, either kingdoms, empires, or under some other sort of rule, and each has different alliances and feud with other states. You wake up and are told by someone that they need your help to unify the states and end the war, and stuff. Very noble cause indeed. Unfortunately, though, this requires you to kill a lot of people, including all the leaders of the 7 kingdoms in each empire. The starting point is the tutorial, of course, and it is in the Holy Tower of Pfeffereth, a ruined tower in which you make your way up to ground level to find that the tower has been obliterated from the ground up. You meet an NPC named Sigyn who gives you a vague idea of where the 7 kingdoms are located, branching out to the southern edge of the field of Pfeffereth. Just which way to go first, that being the kingdom of Creditus, and gives you a boat to get you there. This will be following the intended path, but rest assured you can go anywhere at any time after you beat at least one boss. Specifically the boss in Creditus, though, because that will be the easiest one. That's meant to be the first area. As for the 31 states that aren't the kingdoms or empires, they will be passed through on your way to these objectives or completely optional, and will be gone over in the episode on side quests and optional stuff. On the way to the mainland of the continent of Pfeffereth, the small boat gets wrecked and lands in pieces on the shore of Creditus, the first kingdom, a kingdom owned by humans. Townspeople in Creditus take you off the beach and bring you into a house, which is now your house. You can talk to these people, and they let you in on a secret that their queen, Madame Beleric Clater, has been neglecting her duties as queen, not using the resources for the good of the kingdom, instead using it for herself. As you venture through the town surrounding the palace, you can see the buildings falling into disrepair, the people succumbing to various diseases, and dogs that seem almost zombified sometimes will attack you. One of the taller tower falls, blocking a path and requiring you to take a different route, clambering on and around the crumbling rooftop. There aren't too many enemies in this section, partially because they're just people. They're dying, and I don't think that you should really be killing people. Especially because they attacked you. I mean, they wouldn't attack you, so you can attack them if you want, but that would make me sad, so I would ask you that you please don't. Once you eventually get into the palace, you will scale a short tower filled with a dozen or so royal guards that lead up to the boss room where you fight Madame Clater. She has been corrupted by greed from using her resources on vanities for herself and her palace, and then succumbing to similar diseases her people and their dogs did, and turning into a zombified creature of greed. After the boss fight, you bring back the queen's head and are given a boat and well wishes by the living people that had given you the house and are sent on your way. They thank you for saving their community, but are nonetheless a little bit frightened of you, though they ask that you come back every now and again, just for fun. You can now go anywhere you want in the world of Zadroth with your boat. Yeah, that's right, I'm adding boat travel to this game. It's recommended here that you go to the closest kingdom, Plomianata, for convenience's sake, but you can go to any other kingdom if you wish. We'll be going to the elven kingdom of Plomianata, though, and the townspeople will welcome you with glee, as they've heard about your deeds in Creditus, and they need your help, and you are brought into the town square as the people regale you with the tale of this kingdom. They tell you how it was founded by a great woman, whose name shall never be uttered, as she is now revered as a goddess here. She went on to lead a prosperous lineage, until even now they carry her holy bloodline. They speak about how the kingdom was built from the ground and the various wars over the years, and are truthful when they say the outcomes were almost never beneficial. Their town in specific has been ransacked and rebuilt countless times, and they are still currently working on rebuilding it from the last war 15 years ago. They tell of the losses, the destruction, the burning, but how they've pretty much fixed it now. They still seem worried at this point, though, and if you press them on it, they just brush it off and tell you to ignore it. This leaves you even more confused, so you can now either ask around or try and get into the palace. If you choose to ask people about the wars, there won't be much conclusive evidence, but there will be one old couple on the southern edge of town that can help you. If you ask them, they will tell you how every 20 years or so, the great dragon comes down to attack them, to punish them for their quote-unquote sins. The great dragon is one of the goddess's only living children, aside from its twin sibling, Cow the Glorious. The great dragon burns down parts of their kingdom, making sure they atone. As they finish up their story, they note that they haven't seen their current leader since the last atonement ceremony, which is what the dragon attacks are called, but they know that he is still alive. You now leave their house, and catch up to where you would be if you hadn't asked around, that being the next street over from the town square right in front of the palace. You enter said palace and have a sprawling interior that is easy to get lost in, a radical departure to the previous palace. You are still trying to get to the top, though now there are many more paths to take. At the top there is once again a larger throne room. This time, though, you meet the king of this kingdom, a descendant of the goddess as all rulers before him have been. "I've been expecting you," he says. "You see, as a descendant of the goddess, I know all and see all that happens in this kingdom. So please, sit down and let us have a nice chat." He is clearly emaciated, having not eaten since before the last attack. He seems almost possessed, but he continues the conversation with you. "Don't worry, my dear disciple. I know of your plan and what you need to do. I know what you are going to need to do for your quest to succeed. However, I am not the one who is truly ruling this land. The great dragon has seized most of the control of my kingdom, and is now keeping my people in check with regular attacks. So I will not fight you, but you have your own choices. If this is what you think will help complete your quest, then by all means, end the holy bloodline," he states clearly, though he doesn't get up, his control being taken over by the great dragon, who has reduced him to nothing but skin and bones and sloth. Here, you can choose whether you want to kill him or not. If you choose to, later in this game, the kingdom will have crumbled without a ruler, and if you don't, later it will continue prospering. Either way, the great dragon swoops in past the window and clings to the balcony. This will be the actual boss fight, forcing you to chase it around and out of town before climbing a mountain to get on top of it and finally kill it. If you killed the king, people will be upset at you, and for the rest of the game, you will be randomly attacked by a bounty hunter from the kingdom, not unlike the Yiga clan from Breath of the Wild. However, if you don't kill the king, people will thank you for saving their kingdom, and will let you into their town at any later point and give you an upgrade to your boat, like the speed sail from Wind Waker HD. After this kingdom is all well and done, you can move on to the next kingdom, the Kingdom of Gear. This is where we start mixing things up a little, because this kingdom is a mining kingdom. This kingdom is the Dwarven Kingdom, and the townspeople don't take kindly to you being there, especially after toppling a kingdom and killing a dragon in the other. And they'll be even less happy if you kill both leaders instead of one leader and a dragon. But they let you in anyway, following their code of hospitality. They aren't friendly to you. You ask them if they need any help, and get nothing for an answer. Then, with poetic timing, the kingdom is attacked by enemies in the skirmish where the dwarves are overrun and killed. However, if this is anywhere past your third kingdom, this never happens and is just the aftermath of the fight, with all of the dwarves being dead. The palace, this time, is at the bottom of the mine, though in reality it takes up the entirety of the caverns. You merely go through the twisting paths, no real story bits inside, until you get to the bottom where the king is. He sits at the end of a long hallway, waiting for you. He has been absorbed by his gluttony, but this isn't shown in his appearance because we don't body shame here. Instead, though, he has two extra mouths coming from his neck, which are on sort of tentacles, like a hydra, and he eats his own subjects with said mouths. So here gluttony isn't eating a lot, it's just cannibalism, because cannibalism is wrong. After you kill him and his subjects, you are forced out of the kingdom by the remaining few subjects, and you are never allowed there again. The next kingdom is the Orcish Kingdom of Shirathar. The people in this kingdom welcome you with open arms no matter when you encounter them. They have a society based around friendship and kindness, and they bring you in and pamper you, which will be accepted if this is your first kingdom, fiercely denied if it's your last, and somewhere in the middle if it's somewhere in the middle. Since this is the fourth in this specific run, it is accepted, though you don't really want to. They give you a meal, and their leader sits down with you to have a chat. This is the conversation that happens if this is not your first kingdom. "So, you've been crusading across the land, I see," he says. You nod. And will continue as well with the rest of these kingdoms. You say? I have to do this to unify the states and stop the war. Do you? Why are you doing this? How do you actually know that's what will happen? Sigyn asked me to. He told me that I was the only one who could do it. Sigyn? He starts laughing. Do you mean Sigyn the Fabulist? He says in cursive. You can't trust anything the Holy Sun says. He can't tell the truth to save his life. What? Yes, I'm serious. My advice, stop your quest now, before you become even more of an enemy of the state that you are now. Now eat! Chow down on your food and feast. This was a meal created specially for you. Try some! You eat some of your food and are poisoned. You die and are brought back to the entrance of the kingdom, where the last save point would have been, and thought he could avoid even trying to fight you. You go back to the hall where you chatted with the king after you respawn, and walk up behind him to get a cheap shot on him, dealing a lot of damage before the boss fight starts. After the fight, you rush out of the kingdom so as to not die from the other orcs and get on your boat and paddle away quickly. The 5th kingdom you will visit is the Pixie Kingdom, the Kingdom of Vestipia. This kingdom is completely made from a forest. The pixies don't want you there because they are envious of the power others have, but since they're not that tall, they can't do anything. This is meant to be a break kingdom that's less tense and easier than the rest of them because you've got to let the tension just relax. You won't get as much of a reaction. It's also fairly short. All you really have to do is walk up to the palace and whack it a few times, making it fall and killing the pixie leader. The penultimate kingdom in the intended path is the Gnome Kingdom. This is also a break kingdom, though less so this time. The Gnome Queen brings you into the town square, and they prepare to execute you. That's right, they have a decapitation area in their kingdom, and they plan on using it on you. This happens no matter what, unless you're a gnome, because they only want gnomes in their town. They don't want you there because that's how they keep their monopoly, and if anyone figures out their secrets, they will kill them because of their lust for power. You break out of their hold, and in a Skyrim-like sequence, Cal the Glorious comes down from the sky and kills all the gnomes, freeing you. However, they also want to kill you because you killed their sister, the Great Dragon. If you have not killed the Great Dragon yet, though, they don't want to kill you, and will instead fight you whenever you do kill said Great Dragon. You kill Cal the Glorious, though, and then you are free to leave. The final kingdom arrives! This is the Lizard Folk Kingdom, the Kingdom of Nabratsith. The Lizard Folk want nothing to do with you, and you have to sneak around the town and then go through the small battalion of them spread about the palace to get to the boss. And this is definitely the hardest kingdom, with the Lizard Folk being a warlike people imposing their wrath onto you. Once you get to the top of the palace, you beat the boss. After you beat all 7 bosses, you are visited by Sigyn while traveling the ocean. Hello, little one. I see you've completed this part of the task. Did you lie to me? You ask him. No, of course not. Who told you that? The King of Shurthar. He said you couldn't tell the truth to save your life. Why would I lie to you? I would have nothing to gain from this. He twitches a little. Oh, okay, then what do I need to do now? You said that was only the first part. Now you need to go to the empires and topple them as well. His eyes are glowing faintly red now. Then you will have finished your duties. He jumps out of the boat and into the ocean. You continue on to the first empire, the Fossathair Empire, controlled by the Gripply. This is another nature-based level, with the frog people living high in the treetops. The empires mark a shift in level design as well, requiring you to do something to get into the level instead of just moseying in like you own the place, since now they're on high alert and won't easily let you in. For this empire, you have to climb the treetops around the city before getting on top of the wall and fighting your way to the part leading to the palace. Then you have to climb around inside of the tree, somewhat like the beginning part of God of War 3, before you can get to the boss. After the boss, you continue on to the next empire, the Balatian Empire, controlled by the Strix, basically harpies. This is the most technologically advanced state in the world, with the palace floating way above the city it's based in. Here, you need to figure out how to get up to said floating palace. The way you do it is by fighting into the back of one of the warehouses, where there is a pair of mechanical wings for visitors who don't have wings. It's heavily guarded and fairly hard to get to, though you can instead get to the palace by hitching a ride on a passing Strix, with the added caveat that you have to fight with it while you're on its back to make sure it doesn't throw you off. Don't worry, though, you'll use your fists automatically, which don't do much damage, so you don't really have to worry about it dying. This way, though, you don't get the wings, which let you jump for the rest of the game. Anyway, though, once you get to the palace, you go kill the Empress of the Strixes. The next empire is the Melandian Empire, controlled by the Shadows. The way to get into this empire is to perform basically just a stealth mission. It is an insta-fail, so don't worry, but it's fairly difficult. Once you're done with that, though, it's fairly easy to get to the boss, though. Killing it is a tougher challenge. The final empire is the Iodenaran Empire, which is controlled by tieflings. They use their demonic power to stop you from entering, so unless you have a holy item on you, you can't go in. Fortunately, Sigyn has holy items in Fafarith, because he's a holy person, so you decide to go back to him. Hello again, little one. Have you finished your quest yet? No, not yet. I need you start. Why are you here, then? I don't want to see your face again until you finish what I have assigned you. He forces you away from the holy island of Fafarith's outskirts, but you find that he did give you a holy item at the bottom of the boat. You return to Iodenar and clutch your item to break the barrier, letting you go to the Empress and kill her. You then return to the island of Fafarith, but Sigyn is nowhere to be found. Instead, the tower you climbed out of at the beginning of the game has been rebuilt. You will have to climb this tower, which is a grueling task with only 4 save points. One at the beginning, one at the middle, one about 75% of the way through, and one right before the boss. Once you reach the top, you find Sigyn. Hello, little one. I see that you have completed your task. Thank you. Why are you thanking me? This doesn't benefit you at all. That's where you're wrong, little one. You see, my tower has been rebuilt, meaning I'm back to my full power. Now, you must give me the souls of the worldly treasures, so that I shall destroy this pitiful world. What will happen to me, you ask? Oh, little one, you've been nothing but a pawn this whole time. You will be killed along with everything else in this world. I can't give you these souls, then. Sigyn, why? Silence! He shouts before transforming into a giant demon and starting the boss fight. Well, people don't like you, they at least have to respect you because you saved their entire world. So, yeah, that's the story. That's part 1.